know. I'm excited to check that out.
Right, me too.
So you remember the "I did not hit her, it's not true, it's bullshit, I did not" scene?
Right.
Well, I guess Tommy had such a hard time remembering his lines for this scene, they had to shoot it numerous times. And Tommy actually had to write down his lines and keep them in his pocket. And I guess in the end, it was Greg Sestero's suggestion that he use some physicality and take this water bottle and just throw it that actually seemed to work for him and allowed him to get those lines out.
Right. I did the same thing with the cat earlier.
Right? You know, honestly, though, they are almost kind of like a word jumble when you try and say them all in a row. And I actually forgot them a couple times while writing the script and had to look them up.
So there was a rooftop available to them the entire time during the shooting of this movie. Tommy did not want to use it, though. He insisted on the green screen. So, you know, the digital backdrop of San Francisco was laid over the green screen where they shot on what looked to be a rooftop set, but wasn't actually.
Right, and I have some thoughts. The rooftop set, you can see the digital tears if you look really closely, right? That being said, the set's actually really good.
It is.
The digital's really good. You could easily miss that this is not a real rooftop.
Right.
You know, if you really wanted to spend $1 million convincing somebody that this was a rooftop,
right.
when it wasn't a rooftop,
yeah.
I mean, $1 million well spent.
Still unnecessary.
Yeah.
$1 million unnecessarily spent, which could have been used in other places like the blurry camera shot.
So many people, I guess, have said that Tommy's tape recorder setup in the movie wouldn't work. But Greg Sestero claims that Tommy uses almost like the exact same setup to record all of his real-life conversations.
Everyone.
Another fun fact, so in the scene where Johnny decides to drop the truth bomb and start talking about how he came to San Francisco and how he has this check from an out-of-state bank, and you might notice Peter acting weirdly in this scene.
Yeah, he's blinking a lot, touching things, leaning on things, standing up. And that's not for no reason. Peter was suffering from a concussion, which Tommy had refused to let him leave to go get medical attention. So that's why he's acting a little off during this scene. Steven, we had mentioned earlier, was a last-minute cast, by the way. He was the replacement of Peter, because, you know, the whole concussion thing.
So I feel like a lot of people had a hard time working with Tommy because of his physicality, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because apparently Greg Sestero, he got really bruised up while he was shooting the whole party confrontation scene. Tommy was apparently even stronger than he appeared in this scene. Greg later describing him as having, quote, cyborg-like strength.
I mean, he should have gotten, you know, the memo from when he tackled him during the football line.
But in fairness, do know that Tommy does have a workout regimen, and, like, he does have some guns in those movies. Like, he has some biceps.
Well, also, he's drunk during the scene. He was drinking all that NyQuil. Was he feeling sick?
Yeah, he had like a sinus infection, so he was taking NyQuil and shotgunning Red Bull.
Wow.
In combination.
Oh, no, I wouldn't.
Right? Like, you could actually just take Dayquil.
Right? That's much easier, much more simpler option.
Alright, so what else do we have here? Let's see.
So usually it takes about 2 weeks to get a reply from a movie studio whenever you submit a movie for it to be distributed. Tommy submitted it to Paramount Studios. He got rejected in less than 24 hours. Who ended up picking up The Room anyway?
Oh. So yeah, it seems like it is produced by Wiseau Films, which is obviously Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy self-produced his own movie.
So let's see. He actually purchased 2 full-price cameras to film this movie. Normally you would rent cameras. All major studios rent cameras. MGM, Paramount, everybody rents cameras. But Tommy, not only did he not want to rent cameras, he also, when he was offered the choice between digital and standard film, 35mm film, he didn't really know what to choose between, so he just went with both. And then he tried to cover it up by saying that he just wanted to break boundaries and be the first person to film on 2 formats. That being said, they just abandoned all the digital footage. It just got thrown in the trash. But they did rig up this like elaborate rig for both cameras. So they had both cameras side by side and actually shot every single shot in this movie twice. One with the digital camera and one with the film camera, with this weird homemade rig of theirs, just so Tommy could say he was the first person to do it in 2 formats.
Tommy regularly attends his midnight screenings and holds regular Q&A sessions with the fans of the movie.
That's super cool. I saw a picture of him at like a more recent midnight screening where he seemed to be like in a plexiglass like kind of Pope box.
Yeah, and he was posing with people, whoever would pose next to the box.
Oh my god. Alright, so let's see. Post-release, Tommy insisted that the movie was an intentional comedy and not a serious drama.
Clearly. And at some point, the cast and crew became convinced that nobody would ever see this movie, so they started doing whatever.
A lot of them apparently believed the movie would actually be a money laundering scheme for the mob. I guess from 2009 to 2011, Cartoon Network actually aired The Room annually on April Fool's Day.
That should be a tradition.
Right? Yeah, that's kind of a good day for it.
Claudette, played by Carolyn Minnow, has never acted since this movie. She's only acted in things related to The Room, so she was in the Room documentary, Where Are They Now? Before this, she had only been in one other episode of a 2001 sketch comedy show called That's My Bush.
Okay, so I actually used to watch this show when it came out. This was a 2001 Comedy Central, Matt Stone and Trey Parker show. So those are the two guys from South Park. And it was kind of a British-style slapstick comedy about the Bush family and his inept inauguration and his kind of goofy run of a presidency. And the show's whole shtick was it would shove 4 or 5 of these classic sitcom tropes all into one episode. So they'd be locked in an elevator having to discuss relationship issues while another thing's going on and another thing's going on. So I actually did look up the episode with Carolyn Minnow. Mm-hmm. Let's see, it is the 4th episode of the first and only season of the show. She appears around the 15-minute mark. And if you've watched the show before, you might know that Maggie is the maid. If you haven't, Maggie's the maid. She is the Austrian version of Maggie. So she is the Austrian maid that you see for about 6 seconds. So if there's any lost media seekers out there looking for her, that's where you're going to find her.
Carolyn Minnow actually had to be hospitalized for her heat stroke while she was working on The Room. They go into that in real good detail in The Disaster Artist during that one scene where everybody's complaining about the heat and she actually passes out.
Right. You get a lot more details in The Disaster Artist and you kind of do get a good impression.
Yeah, right. That's why I feel like The Disaster Artist is the perfect side-by-side watch with The Room.
Right. What was the, what's the new Greg Sestero movie that was coming out?
Miracle Valley.
So we watched the trailer for that a night ago.
It looks good.
It looks good. It looks weird. It's kind of a horror. So he actually credited himself as the actor who survived The Room.
Right.
In that, if you want any ideas as how he feels about that whole production process.
Well, Greg is still also working together with Tommy and other stuff. Wasn't he in Best Friends?
Yeah, Best Friends Volume 1 and 2.
Is he in Big Shark?
Yes, he is in Big Shark. They're both starring in Big Shark. So, according to Tommy Wiseau, Lisa's mother, Claudette, apparently makes a full recovery from breast cancer.
Yay!
Right.
You might ask, why is everyone playing football outside for no reason? Tommy Wiseau would tell you that football is fun and playing it without gear is a challenge.
So, a lot of the cult status of this movie could probably be attributed to 2 superfans. Michael Rusley and Scott Gardner were 2 of the first people who saw this movie in theaters, and they pretty much became instant fans of its massive camp. He fears that they'd never have a chance to see the movie again, assuming that it was just going to die out as soon as its theatrical run ended. They corralled over 100 friends with them to the last 4 screenings of this movie, and that was a big part of what helped establish it as a cult hit, because they were just running around in the aisles, throwing spoons, yelling at the screen.
That's why this movie has become kind of equated to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right, because you have so many of those interactive elements, just like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right, I remember just looking back, and one that I can remember right off the top of my head is whenever the screen's supposed to go blurry, you're supposed to shout "focus" at the screen.
Or like whenever the pictures of spoons are on set, you're supposed to throw spoons at the screen. When Claudette is first talking to her daughter Lisa about the whole, like, you can't leave Johnny, or you can't support yourself. But when she says the "you can't support yourself" line, everybody's supposed to shout, "Because you're a woman!" Right? Okay. Let's see.
Greg Sestero wanted to change the leave your stupid comments in your pocket that line. He wanted to change that line. But Tommy insisted that he do the lines as written. He stormed out after doing that final line and said that he would not do it again.
Right. I actually don't think it's the worst line ever.
It's not, but it is a little bit of a weird line.
It is. It is for sure. So Tommy actually paid to keep this movie in theaters for just over 2 weeks in this vain attempt to try and win an Oscar bid, which was, of course, unsuccessful.
Of course.
Right. That didn't stop him from keeping the billboard for The Room up for the next 5 years. And this was apparently at no small cost to him because it reportedly cost $5,000 a month to keep this up. This actually became a sort of tourist stop for a lot of fans of the movie. And honestly, considering how big of a cult hit, I think it might be worth the money, right?
Right.
Because he kept it up for $5,000 a month, for 5 years. That's $300,000. But this movie has become pretty big in this time. As far as Tommy has said that he likes the location and he likes the billboard, but he has to have some kind of mixed feelings towards it because the picture that you see on that billboard and the same iconic picture of him with the kind of one eye open.
It's called Evil Man.
Yeah, he calls it the Evil Man, right? Yeah. I love it. Right? Okay, so we also have one last minute fan theory.
So we talked about earlier that Mark is supposed to be an undercover cop, and the theory goes that he was investigating an underground drug ring, aka Johnny, Lisa, and Denny were all a part of a drug ring, and Johnny and Lisa's job as a banker.
And a computer person? I guess she worked with computers or something?
Yeah. These are all just an elaborate ruse, and Denny is really just their front man dealing drugs at the college supplied by both Johnny and Lisa. Denny supposedly undercut the two of them when he went to Chris R. as a cheaper supplier, but soon found out that Chris R. wasn't nearly as lenient as Johnny and Lisa. Mark's affair was supposedly a tale of a man on the inside who got too close and fell in love. Mark was planning to have the apartment raided during the party, but he decides to have a more last-minute helping of that... Do I actually have to read this?
Yeah.
Julia Daniel Booty.
Yes.
But the affair becomes exposed, and Johnny becomes distraught at the sight of his partner in life and in crime betraying him. It's all too much for him to bear, so he shoots himself, and upon hearing gunshots, the police officers who were set up to raid the apartment, thinking that something has gone terribly wrong, only to find that Johnny, the infamous drug dealer poet, dead on the scene.
Right.
Which would explain why the cops are there so quickly, right?
Yeah, it explains why the cops are there. It explains a couple things about Mark's attitude. There's this whole, subplot about Mark starting to smoke marijuana throughout the movie. You notice him smoking a couple of times, and, Peter gets into it on the rooftop. So the idea, I guess, is that upon interacting with Lisa, he starts smoking weed, and that causes him to start losing touch with reality and start making bad decisions.
That's what marijuana does.
That's what marijuana does. Okay. I think we've actually made it there. I think it's time for our bad movie review. So, Nohea, how would you rank this as a movie in general? As a general kind of movie ranking, just as something that was coming out?
It's a pretty bad movie. Are we going on a 1 to 10? I would give it a 3.
A 3? I would have been like a 2 on it. But considering that rewatching it several times, I did notice he makes several attempts at having setup and payoff. He tries to explain away a logical inconsistency. He uses a Chekhov's gun, so he has some interest in plot devices.
Right.
And he tries to have the "you're tearing me apart" line thrown in there and everything. So there's some references.
Right.
So I'll give him a 2.5.
Okay.
What about bad movie?
As a bad movie, it's a perfect 10. It is pretty great. It's got everything you want. It's a little slow. I think it just takes a dip in the middle.
Right. I'd give it a 9, because it does take a little bit of a dip in the middle. But one nice thing about it is it definitely starts off really poppy. There's just a lot of nonsense just happening really fast in the beginning.
Yeah.
Between the affair and Lisa abandoning Johnny and the weird Denny stuff, it's all happening in 10 minutes of the movie. So it kind of gets you invested pretty quickly. And I really like that with a bad movie, where you kind of start off hot and heavy with some WTF mate kind of stuff.
Right.
So who would be your favorite actor?
My favorite actor, it'd probably be between Claudette or Greg.
Between Claudette or Greg. I really like Claudette. I really like her line delivery. I enjoy her character. As far as who's the best actor, probably Michelle. I think Michelle's actually the best.
Honestly, yes.